thanks for joining in on another meditation here. I think this is really going to release life and truth and a whole bunch of goodness into your heart if you'll just stay with me for a few minutes here. We're at the part in the journey of the Shulamite where she comes to a table. And she's coming essentially to the king's table. That's what it says in the text. But really, we know that it's the table of the Lamb. It's the Lord's table, the Lord's Supper. It's the place of communion. This is the real first stop on her journey into awakening. And this is the first stop for all of us. And so next week, when we do our next meditation, we're going to actually take communion together. And I'm looking forward to that. I want you to, join me for that if you're able. But in this meditation, I'm going to give you things to meditate on, to think about, to dwell on over the week, okay? Because we have to learn to discern the body rightly, it says in 1 Corinthians. It talks about those who are not discerning the body, the bread, the cup correctly. We have to understand what communion is all about. And listen, the message of communion is offensive because the message of communion tells us that all of our spirituality, all of our life, all of our growth, it doesn't start with us. It starts with what Jesus has done because we were bankrupt in the love department. And this is really vital for you to think about. So just, track with me here on a few thoughts because there's this, mentality out in the Christian world that, if we would just do X, Y, and Z, we would come into greater spiritual maturity, growth, discipleship, all of those kind of things. And, a lot of terms are thrown out, like prayer and worship, for instance. And these are wonderful things. These are vital parts of our walk with God and what it means to step into this redeemed life. But the fact of the matter is that these things are not our foundation. We don't start with these things. In other words, your spiritual development is not based upon your prayer, your worship, your surrender even. That's a word that gets thrown out all the time, that, we have to surrender. Everything flows out of surrender. Well, actually, even your surrender is a fruit. It's a fruit of something else. Prayer and worship is a fruit of something else. You don't actually make this fruit happen. It's something that God does inside of you. You participate, but it is not the foundation for holiness and freedom and all these things that we want to see in our lives. Listen to what happens in the song. It says, while the king was at his table, so she's observing him at the table. It's a picture of her taking communion, putting her eyes on Jesus, on his finished work, on what he has done, on his outstretched arms for her, on his love, him pouring out his righteousness on her, giving her the gift of his grace, the gift of his favor, giving her the free gift of being pleasing to God. This is a free gift that Jesus gives to you. So that's what he's giving her. She's observing him at the table of the Lamb. And it says, while the king was at his table, my perfume gave forth its fragrance. So it's as she is meditating on the cross, meditating on God's love for her, that perfume, incense, begins to rise. Perfume in the scriptures is very much a symbol of prayer and worship to God. And so this perfume that we're seeing in the story here in the Song of Songs is her releasing pure worship and prayer to God that's pleasing to him, that he enjoys. These things are good. Our surrender, our prayer, our worship, our study of the Bible, all of these things are important and it pleases God. But notice how it happens. It says, while the king was at his table, my perfume gave forth its fragrance, right? It's as we understand his love for us that we're able to love him back in our worship, in our prayer, in our good deeds and everything else. But the good deeds, even the spiritual things, even these generic terms about surrender, these are not the foundation to the Christian life. The foundation is what he has done. So this week, may you be released and set free to put your feet, both feet, upon the rock of what Jesus has done, of who he is, of his love for you, that is eternal, that is outside of your good and your bad. It is just the truth. Jesus died for you and he gave you his righteousness. He poured out his life for you. He pursued you to the grave, and then he took you out of the grave and raised you up with him. But I'm jumping ahead of myself with that one. So this is the foundation. This is what we need to come to the communion table with when we go further into the bride's journey next week. So I pray that helps you, that you think about this, that you ask God to give you grace to repent, meaning to change your thinking, and just relook at what you are meditating on, and what you think brings life to you, what you think makes God happy. May you realize, again, that foundation that is not about what you've done, but who Jesus is. So I look forward to being with you again. We're going to keep putting out these videos. We have Dylan DeMarsico, who is putting out some new videos as well on our Eyes Open page here. So you want to check that out too. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of good stuff in there. This is all about resourcing and equipping people to really come into the joy and the freedom of God. It's simple. It's simple. It's simple. It's simple. So that's what this is about. So join us again next week. I'll be with you guys then.